One of the most important skills you can learn as a CEO or owner of your own business is influence. How to influence others and manage them in a way that they enjoy. Today I'm interviewing Dave Loshelder, and he gives you the Jedi mind trick on how to influence others within your business and take your skill set to the next level. Enjoy. Hey guys, welcome. I have a special guest on the show. We did an interview not too long ago. I wanted to bring him on and interview him this time. We have Dave Loshelder. He's the owner of 3LG Solutions. He's also the author of two books, Take Care of Number One and Protect Yourself. Dave works with CEOs and founders of companies anywhere between the $1 to $10 million mark. And he works with companies to drive sustainable change initiatives, boost team synergy, and build stronger, healthier team cultures. Dave has also spoken at several events and lectures as a professional speaker. He's certified in Lean Six Sigma. He's a Six Sigma black belt, a DISC certified trainer, which specializes in culture change and an engagement specialist. And he works with companies and consults them on developing process improvements and change leadership initiatives. So that's a big intro, man. That's impressive stuff.
Yeah, I think you made me sound pretty cool.
Thanks. That's amazing. I'm stoked, man. Thanks for being on the show.
It's great to be here.
We're going to get into it, and I think people are going to be very impressed on the knowledge that you have and the insights that they can take away from this. So got a couple questions for you. You ready?
Let's do it.
Awesome. So I guess, first of all, for the people that haven't heard of Six Sigma, can you explain briefly what that is and what it does, what it provides, and what it doesn't provide?
Yeah, essentially in a nutshell, it's a process improvement strategy that it's been around for quite a long time. And it's based off of utilizing data as a way to make changes. And really, it's about errors, not to making sure that the error rate is ridiculously low, and that it has with safety, with products, with healthcare. A lot of different industries now are using it, but the one thing it doesn't have is really the people side. And that's where I wanted to come in and say, look, Six Sigma is great and it makes things run better. It makes things run great. But if you don't have the people side of it on board, then you really can't implement the strategies and the ideas that you have to make the business run better. So that's kind of like in a nutshell, what Six Sigma is. But really the thing that I wanted to really focus on was having people understand that when you have them work together in an effective and efficient way, then you're able to design and have your business thrive.
Sure. So what you're talking about is like it helps engineer out profitability by reducing the errors. And what you're saying is what it really doesn't include is the soft skills.
Right.
And that's where you come in. So not only are you certified in Six Sigma, but you're also have the soft skills to accompany that to even get more value out of that process, if I'm understanding that right.
Right. And that's why I started the business, because I saw that the process improvement stuff is great and it's needed, and I've done a lot of it. But when you're marrying the culture change and engagement strategies with it, you become much more powerful. And so now you have a balance between the science of Six Sigma and the kind of the people side of business, the people side of working together to make it actually work and work synergistically and harmoniously.
Gotcha. So why are soft skills important? Why should managers care? Because it seems
why should they care?
Why should they care? Because they already have the certification in Six Sigma. I mean, most people uh, don't don't take their education to the next level where they feel like they can extract more value out of their team, is what I've seen.
Mhm.
They kind of just go with what they were given and move on. So why should they care? Why are soft skills important?
Well, if you're working with people, there's a lot of variability, right? And there's so many different personalities, so many different temperaments, and so many different ways people interact together. And without learning how to deal with people, especially as a manager, because you have so many different types of personalities that
Yeah.
you're working with, that if you don't know how to communicate with them and you don't know how to engage them, then you're not going to get the best out of them. I mean, let's think about it. The number one thing that I hear over and over and over again is, why do you hate your job? And every single time, without fail, it's my manager. It's not about the work. I mean, because they're going into a job knowing what the work's going to be like for the most part, but they don't know what the manager's going to be like. They don't know what the leader's going to be like. And once you don't have that ability as a manager to connect with those people, that just turns people off. And it makes, I mean, most of your life, if you think about it in terms of hours, is at work. And you're, like my friend said, the second most important relationship you're going to have next to your marriage is your boss.
Hmm.
And
Yep.
if you think about that, you spend a heck of a lot more time with your boss than you do sometimes with your spouse, depending on how many hours you work. So, you got to like say, wow, there's something to that. And I think as a manager, you have the responsibility to be able to communicate and make things just much more comfortable, I guess you could say, in a job, or have that synergy or have that rapport to be able to kind of work in a way where you're going to get the most out of that person.
So would you say, yeah, like, so why, if that's so important, I agree with you 100%. Why don't most leaders or managers possess those skills right now?
They're not trained. They're simply not trained. And that's when, my previous life as a manager and director, I started to see more and more that that was a problem. And I was like, why is this such a problem? And, now I get to talk to leaders and managers and supervisors and of course employees. And you hear it over and over again that it's the training that goes behind it, because you can train someone in Six Sigma. I was trained in that, right? So you have a program that you go through, a curriculum, and you learn it. It's 1, 2, 3 XYZ, and you learn it, right? And once you get it down, you practice it and you get better at it, and so you become more efficient at it. And that's a process that you go through. But there's not many training programs out there that actually teach. I don't know many that teach, how do you deal with certain people, and is there a system to it? Because the one thing I wanted to make this, the reason I wanted to design this is because you need a system to teach this. You can't just throw somebody into a seminar and say, hey, just be nice to someone. There's a system, there's psychology, there's a lot of ways that you can do this. And so what I've done is I've kind of capsulated all that and made it into a system where when you're learning certain skills, you're learning certain, like, quote unquote people skills, right? What does that mean? Well, there's psychology behind it. There's communication skills that you're going to learn. There's ways of learning how people react to certain environments,
Mhm.
and then how do you respond to them and recognize those. And so all those things need to be kind of put together, and that's what I've done to I would say to pretty effectively, because once you learn this stuff, then it's like, okay, now you start to see it. And when you see it, then now you can deal with it. And there's like the 3 A's. I teach some self-defense courses, and we have the 3 A's of self-defense. And it's the 3 A's are awareness, assessment, and action. And the number one thing is to be aware. Like that's the hardest part. And the only way you're aware of something is unless you learn it and you're aware of what's really going on. Then
Right.
you have to be able to assess it. And then once you assess it, then you can do something about it. And the third one's action. You take action on that and then you get a result. So that's kind of how I structured it. And I think it's really important to be able to do that, because I know that once you learn this stuff, it becomes pretty, it becomes easier to deal with people, I guess you can say, when you have more tools in your toolbox.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, absolutely. So how much of that is nature versus nurture? Because we see all these managers and leaders and people that have this very robust, personality that's outgoing, and, maybe they hug babies, they shake hands. They're these very personable people. And then you have these introverts that are complete different personality types that maybe aren't born for that role, or maybe they're good for a different role. So how much of like these people skills are nature versus nurture?
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I just did a leadership series training for a company, a very large company, and where I was talking to their managers and supervisors and senior directors. And in one of the trainings was one of my slides that said, is leadership nature or nurture? And it was really interesting to see what they said initially, because the room was divided. It was very quick. Well, it's nature, and the other side of the room would say, well, it's nurture. And then as we talked about it, you started to notice, like, wait a second, this could be a little bit of both. And it's this whole notion of nature versus nurture, right? You get that for a lot of different things. You can kind of tie this back to, but when it comes to leadership, do people have the competencies? And that needs to be trained. Do they have the temperament, the personality? That comes with more nature, because you're kind of born with your personality, right? You develop your personality, you don't really change personality, but you can change behavior, and you can change the way you look at things. It's the old phrase, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
Yeah.
So you have to be able to kind of look at that. So I think to answer your question directly, it's a little bit of both, but that's where the training comes in, where you have to, even though you might have the temperament for leadership and management and dealing with people, you might not have the skills to be able to really get in there deep and to understand, what's really going on and how to apply it. That's the trick, right? Like I said, you have to be aware of it, but then you have to know how to apply it.
Yeah. And one of the best things that I've learned from your material, I think, is understanding the different personality types. Mm-hmm. Because if you think about leadership, right, you have someone like Gandhi, who is a passive, right? And then I'm sure all along the line, you could think of examples of people that are leaders and with different personality types. And certain leadership styles are effective for them. But maybe if they apply a different leadership style, it's not going to be as effective. Right. And I think what your material does is it teaches people how to recognize, personality types and how to deal with that, and also how to maximize it, right?
Yeah, so, really, it really is. There's research that shows that when you implement different types of personality styles, or the number of styles, or maybe you know more than one, because typically, where do we learn our leadership styles? Our leadership style, right? From our leader. So the person you work under. And if you have like one person you work under for a while, you really only have one style that you're really learning. Some people have developed more styles because they've had different types of leadership, different types of jobs, that type of thing. But it's hit or miss when it comes to that, right? Because when you are in a situation and you need a certain leadership style, you have to know which one to use, how to use it, when to use it, And then you can be effective, but you can't just like throw it out there and say, well, I'm going to, try this leadership style. I'm going to use a coaching style. Well, that might be the wrong, if you're in a crisis situation, you can't use coaching. You have to use a more directive style. You might have to be more authoritative depending on, what the situation is. But if you're going to use an authoritative style when you need a coaching style, that's going to screw it up. So you really have to know which one to use. And that's kind of when something like materials goes over different types of styles and then how to use them, what are they, when to use them. And I think, once you capture, more than one, then you're really able to have those tools in your toolbox to pull out, because you're not going to try to cut a tree down with a hammer, right? You gotta get your axe out to cut the tree down. If you're using the wrong tool, you're not going to get anywhere. So that's kind of what you were saying.
Or dynamite.
Or yeah, that would help. Yeah, I mean, it'd be a great style to use.
Very large explosive. Which brings me to my next question, actually. So, what are some of the common mistakes that the people, the companies that you work with, the leaders that you work with, the managers that you work with, what are the common mistakes that they make that you recognize that happen on a regular basis?
Communication. It's all about communication. The mistakes they make, they are using, there's two things really. They're like we talked about, they're either using the wrong style of leadership in a situation that needs something much more appropriate, or they're not communicating effectively. Now, what does that mean? Because everyone talks about, effective communication, right? And it's like, okay, well, nobody knows what that means. But see, Adam, if I know your personality and I know that if I know your behavior style and your communication style, then I'm able to understand you better. And then I'm able to modify my communication to you so we have better rapport. And I can tolerate you more because I understand you and you can tolerate me, right? Because you ever meet someone, you're like, man, it's like that guy drives me crazy. And you have no idea why until you start to learn. It's like, wait, that person is just a different style, right? We have a mutual friend that shoots from the hip constantly, right? Now, I like to shoot from the hip sometimes with some of my decision making because that's kind of my style. But there's the time and place for that too, because then I start to say, well, I need to kind of think this through and be able to find out what I need first before I make a decision. Okay, because if I shoot from the hip too quick, then I'm going to make a rash decision. But if I know this person's like that, then I can kind of say, okay, let me communicate with him this way. He doesn't need that much information. Someone that may need more detail or more information to make a decision. Well, if I know that about them, then I prepare more. Then I can say, look, if I'm going to convince them on something, then I'm going to go and say, okay, here's, the 17 things that you need. If you need more, let me know. And then they come back with, I need 5 more things. Okay, fine. I give them 5 more things and they say, okay, that's great. I'll make that decision. And so it's that type of like personality communication style that's so important to learn. And once you learn that with each individual person that reports to you and works with you, then you're able to be so much more effective. Then you have the rapport, then you have the clear communication, then you have the satisfaction of working with that person and them working with you. And then you're really able to kind of make a difference at that point and be much more productive.
Awesome. So basically what I'm understanding is you're arming these companies with the Jedi mind trick. So in a sense, like you're arming them with the ability to influence their employees, their workforce, their managers in a way that resonates with them to get them to do what they want, which as long as it's done obviously in an ethical way, like that's fantastic. Then you can push the company in the right direction. So right. What is the secret sauce for the Jedi mind trick? Like how can you get people to do whatever you want them to do? And it can go both ways too, right? How can you get the the leadership to gain that power. And then as an employee, if you want your manager or leader or CEO to do something, how can you be more effective in the way that you communicate with them? You know, what's the secret sauce here? How can people learn how to master this Jedi mind trick that you have?
Yeah, the one assessment tool that I use is called the DISC assessment, and that really gives you a lot of good information once you take the assessment. Now, I think with the DISC assessment, you know, it's been around a long time, and I'm certified to administer it and train it. But I found that, you know, you take the assessment, then you get the report back, and you read the report and say, oh yeah, that's like me, and nobody really takes it to the next level. But I think the secret sauce is information, and to be able to get that information, and this is, I think, what we do at 3LG so effectively, is we implement it into your staff, your system, your communication system. So we do exercises that can help you write emails even better, even a little more effectively. Like I said, if you're a detail guy, Adam, I need, if I'm going to send you something, I need to give you something that has a lot of detail in it, because you're going to say, well, what's this email for? But if I send an email that has maybe someone with the dominant personality style, well, they just want the points. They don't want detail. They want to, you know, throw it against the wall, see what sticks. Give me the highlights. I'll figure out the rest. And so once I learn those types of styles, then I'm really able to find out more about what we need to do, because I'll get more communication back from them. Also, we go a little bit even deeper than that when there's certain situations people respond to. Like, for instance, like an interpersonal personality, a person that has kind of that interactive personality style. When they become stressed out, they become very sarcastic. And that becomes very confusing, especially if they're the leader, when they're trying to direct people. And people are like, well, what do I do? Like, I mean, was that sarcasm? Is that real? And so if you don't know that about yourself, and you're just, because, you know, why are they sarcastic? Well, the psychology behind it is, if they become stressed, one of the things they do is they like to joke around a little bit. So the sarcasm comes out, and that kind of relieves that stress for them. But on the other side of it, it can offend people, it could confuse people, and it does. So knowing that, so if I have a manager who is more interpersonal, who likes to deal, but is starting to become like, and you're starting to hear people are like, I'm not real sure about what he's trying to say to me, or she's trying to say to me. That shows me that there's something going on there, because the communication is breaking down, because there's something going on in their lives that's making them kind of feel a little bit different, and they're responding to the stress. So it's kind of an example of that, where once you know that about yourself and about others, then you're able to say, wow, okay, there's something going on here, right? Because if you really know somebody, you kind of look, and you can just look at them and say, there's something up, right? But sometimes that's harder to do in a business environment, especially when, you know, people are, you know, the turnover's high, or there's new people coming in. You don't really get you don't get enough time to learn about people at that point, because you don't have the time to see put them in different situations and have them respond. The learning curve is too steep. So to cut through that, you can actually take a team through, and I could take a team through the assessments, and we actually put a graph up that has 4 quadrants, and you can see where each person is and where that team lands. I worked with a company one time, and I did a whole assessment, and it was a small team of people. I guess it was about 15, 20 people, and all of them, mostly 95% of them landed in the conscientious style, which is very detailed, very careful, make decisions slowly. And there was like one person interpersonal and the other person was in a dominant.
Hmm.
And I turned to the owner and I'm like, hey, everybody's like you. And this guy hired everybody like him. So it was really off balance. And so they were having trouble because they were so off balance. Because you need more dominant people to get things done, but you need a conscientious style to really make sure it's done right. So if you want something done, give it to a dominant person in personality style. If you want something done correctly, give it to a conscientious, right? And so you have to balance those out. So once you know that, then you can, even your hiring process works better because then you have a better balance of people on your team and your team works much more synergistically. So I think that is the secret sauce. It takes a little bit of time and a little bit of education, but once you start to implement that and the awareness comes up, then you're able to use the awareness, assessment, and action idea to be able to really kind of tie this back in to really make you a really much more effective manager and leader.
So is that quadrant that you're talking about, is that something that we could share maybe below as a link?
Yeah.
If it's not proprietary to what you do, that'd be awesome.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, it's I mean, look, I have a link there. You could actually go to the website and actually you can buy the assessment. Of course, you can check it out. I'm also putting up on my website a little quiz that I ask you a couple questions and it gives you kind of your style in more of a superficial way, but you'll get an idea of what kind of style you would be, or maybe you can guess somebody else's style. And so, yeah, we can certainly do that. It's a good tool to use. It's been very effective over the course of my career.
I can see the value in that. Absolutely. What for companies, I've seen some numbers around this, and I'm sure you have as well. The difference in profitability, effectiveness, or by implementing good leadership, what's some of the differences that you see or that's proven out there to be different?
Yeah, Harvard did a bunch of research on this, and there's a correlation between poor leadership and lack of engagement, and it's like a straight line down. Contrary to that, there is a strong correlation between effective leadership and employee engagement. And it's all based on how leaders manage their people and how they lead their people, how the clarity of what they say and what they do. The thing that is a real problem when you become wishy-washy with certain types of leadership styles, that really confuses people and raises the anxiety tremendously. And you don't want a bunch of anxious people running around your company. That's for sure. Because that becomes like the emotional intelligence of a leader. And you can affect the emotional intelligence of everyone under you, right? So, and you're always being watched. Like leaders, they don't realize how much they're being watched. And especially in a crisis situation where if they're at a meeting and the staff typically are waiting for the leader, but not only that, but they're actually watching how the leader behaves and responds to the problem, and then they take that lead. So if the leader, if there's like a problem and the leader starts to jump up and down and starts to sweat and gets anxious, that's a real problem for everyone else, right? So you really have to say, okay, how am I dealing with this? And to be self-aware, like the ability to be self-aware as a leader is one of the most important things, because as your awareness grows, the ability to control how you're responding to certain situation grows as well, and you become much more effective that way.
And to
And
your
once you're doing
point,
that, then people are going to be able to have more confidence in you to say, okay, I can trust this person. That person can lead me. I will listen. I will do what they say because I trust in the fact that they're in it for me as well. Yes, that's kind of the idea.
awesome. And like you were saying earlier, if you know the personality style of that leader,
Hmm.
it's going to be easier for you to understand their reactions
Yeah.
and justify it in your head and say, oh, this is their dominant personality. And so this type of reaction is normal. And they're not going to freak out or lose faith in the company or have loss of job satisfaction and all of those things that tie into profitability and happiness and all of the other things that really matter for any particular company. That's super cool. I love it, man. I think this is, you've really struck a chord in that perfect medium where companies have really good operations, but they might be lacking in the people skills. And you were just explaining earlier the secret sauce to really getting that right. It's implementing that personal touch, the people skills into it to make it super effective and take everything to the next level. So where can they find you? Where can people that want to know more learn more about Dave Loshelder and 3LG Solutions?
Yeah. Website is 3lgsolutions.com. You can find me there. You find me on Twitter, Facebook, and yeah, just reach out if you have any questions. I have a YouTube channel as well. So I try to post videos weekly on there with some content, some good information, and some recommendations as well. And of course, LinkedIn too. So if anybody has any questions would like to, give a call, I'd be happy or to talk or respond to any messages.
Outstanding. Dave, this was awesome, man. This was really good content. I'm excited to share actually that 4-quadrant tool that some people can get some basic insight into their company, but I think it's going to be pretty awakening for most to check that out. That's exciting, man. Thanks for coming on the show. I appreciate it.
Hey, thank you, man. I appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.
Okay. All right, Dave. Take care. Thank you.
All right. Take care. We'll see you.
What's up, guys? I hope this episode gave you some fresh new insights and thinking strategies that you can use to help grow your business. If you can't wait until the next episode, please check out my website at alphaproject.us for a ton of free articles and information, completely gratis with no email opt-in required. If you're looking for even more value, I strongly encourage you to sign up for my newsletter. My team and I are constantly looking for new ways to provide you with some killer content, including interviews we might do, stimulating articles, and new business strategies that we may come across along the way. Feel free to share this with any like-minded professionals you may know and that may benefit from some of these strategies shared here. And if you enjoyed this, please leave a comment or a rating as well. We appreciate that. Lastly, if you or anyone you know would like to add a powerful new revenue stream by offering a custom designed mastermind group experience to your current audience, please contact me. That's what I do. I look forward to hearing your stories from implementing any of the creative thinking methods I shared here. Best of luck to you on your journey, and thank you.